thought, well, that's strange. And I got up to this overlook that was only a mile ahead. Things like hip-hop culture. Some people live totally within these subcultures, and they can't imagine a universe outside their subculture. So human beings are easily preoccupied with daily life, and so many of them don't have time to fool with this stuff, even though some things are happening to them. They don't know what to do about it, so they just get on with their lives. This guy in California was desperately pleading to me, how do I get on with my life? And I spent more time counseling him than anything else. Once I got all the facts, I spent more time trying to keep his emotional state together, because he was really getting freaked out from this stuff. And for weeks after it happened, he kept having things going on, like something being misplaced in his house, things like that, weird little supernatural kinds of things, like something was going on, but he couldn't quite catch what. And like most abductees, I asked him, well, have you ever had any past experiences that you could call paranormal in some fashion? And he didn't know of anything at first. But the more we talked about it, the more he thought he remembered some things that he had dismissed over the years. And it turns out that he had had several major events in his life that sounded like full-blown abductions to me. So I keep running into this same kind of thing. I see this pattern everywhere I go, and I can quickly tell if somebody is worth talking to for more than 5 minutes. I can figure out if a person's being abducted within 5 minutes. Usually it doesn't take long. I just know the right questions to ask from experience, and I pull out all kinds of things that the people themselves didn't even think related to the matter. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else? Let me go over this side. Could you speak up just a little? I just turned 60 years old. I'm hard of hearing naturally.
We're having a UFO flash over Cripple Creek, Virginia right now. Two nights in a row. Then the next night we had on camera, nothing showed up.
Yeah.
And then the fourth night, we're back.
They usually know who's looking at them, from what I can tell.
Well, it looks like, I actually ignored it when I first seen it, because I thought it was dark, it was done in the field.
Yeah.
I thought it was just something, which happens, our neighbors drive around the field every once in a while. And it took off up into the air, so it wasn't a tail, but it was red. It was just like a tail, like a truck.
Right, yeah. I've seen something the same color before, flying straight downward at really high speed, probably about Mach 4 or so, about 2,000 or 3,000 miles an hour. But it was not a meteor, it was a red light like you're talking about. It was a light, and it was a craft of some kind, but it disappeared right before it got down to the ground. And there was no evidence it hit the ground. I've also seen an orange flare of a light in daytime to suddenly bust out of the clouds, and right before it got to the trees, it disappeared too, in an area where that kind of thing has been seen before. Where is Cripple Creek?
Just south of Whitfield.
Oh, I went up through there on the way up here, so I'm familiar with. Well, Whitfield has had a lot of sightings back in the 80s. Yeah, there's a history of that area. Yeah, it's strange. There's a lot going on all the time. You can always find some recent sightings happening. They happen every week somewhere. Did I answer your question very well? Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I've seen a red light before. Yeah, UFOs come in all shapes and sizes. They really do. And this one looked the same color as you would say on a traffic light or the tail light of a car. Same color. Yeah. And the one I saw was up in Virginia. It was up I-95, just across the border out of North Carolina, up into Virginia. Yeah, more toward the East Coast, out that way. Right. Yeah, most UFOs are, as a rule. Sometimes if you're real close to one, you may hear a generator humming sound. But generally, they're quiet as they can be. That's what gives them such an eerie appearance when you're seeing them, the lack of noise. I can understand that. It's a scary thing in a lot of ways. Life in general is scary, though. Yes?
Have you seen an increase in awareness of the public
I think personally, and this is my own opinion, and that's all it is, I think all this business about 2012 is based on some things that are rather vague and subject to a lot of interpretation. I'm not saying that something couldn't happen, but just a couple of weeks ago, a guy was telling me what all was going to happen December 21st, 2012. And the thing is, he was so sure about everything he said that I knew he couldn't be right. Because anybody that's that certain about anything paranormal has got to be off on a tangent. Not to say it couldn't be happening. You know, I can't discount anything as a possibility. I try to stay open-minded. That's what helps me to find the real truth to all this, because that's what I'm after. I don't want to come to a conclusion of my own. I want to find out what's going on. I just want to find out what's going on. And do we need to do something about it or not? So, but as far as awareness goes, I used to talk to people every once in a while back in the 60s and 70s about UFOs. And you would generally get chuckles out of people standing around listening to your conversation. Nobody took it very seriously back then. In the 80s, they were more open to it. In the 90s, you had a lot of TV documentaries coming out. And people were starting to notice, well, these TV crews seem to know what they're talking about. And they were coming up with a lot of stuff. And so I think for the first time, the public at large was really starting to get a dose of what this phenomenon is all about, with some really credible people. These documentaries did a lot for us. And then in the 2000s, the last decade, has come along even more, and now you can freely talk about it, and people don't snicker anymore, because they've seen too much on TV, and heck, look how many people here have had their own personal sightings. You know, many of you guys know what I'm talking about. You know these things are real. There's no question about it. I can't sit here and say I know what they are. My observations don't take me that far. I may know deep down in my subconscious, but consciously I don't know. I can't really sit here and say. I've got my own ideas, but I'd rather present facts based on what I've confirmed rather than my own theories, unless I want to talk about my theories. Today I'm talking about what I've confirmed, what's being real, because I want to share, you know, the concrete things I've been blessed to find out about with all you folks here, because one of the main reasons you folks are here is you're all searching for the truth to things that the authorities just don't want to recognize or acknowledge. You can't get the information anywhere else, it seems like. And the internet is great, but you don't know what you can trust and what you can't. I can only speak from my own website. I know what is in there is absolutely solid. I can't prove it, but I know it in my own heart that it is. I can't vouch for any other websites. They may be saying some of the same things, but I just can't vouch for them. Each researcher's journey is a personal one. And I'm blessed with some experiences that keeps me going and makes me realize the reality of all this. But a lot of people just can't make heads or tails of all this because they're trying to put it into the reality that we all know, or that we're all programmed to know about. But the evidence suggests that we don't know everything there is to know about what we call reality. There may even be other forms of reality that they come from, and they're just visiting our reality. That's where they might be considered paranormal. Some people think they're just from another planet, they're an advanced society, and to us they seem like they're magical. Well, that could be the case, but I just don't think it's that simple. That's my own opinion. But the facts are, they are here. These craft cannot be operated by human beings. I just cannot be forced to believe something as absurd as that. With what I've seen, there's no way human beings know how to develop this kind of technology. It's very impressive. Now, I realize that we can do some amazing things. The first time I ever went under anesthesia, I couldn't believe how smooth it was and how easily done it was. I'm counting back to one, and I don't remember anything, and all I know is somebody's waking me up out of a deep, groggy state, and I come around pretty quickly. But 20 minutes of my existence is totally gone. I didn't exist for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. No existence whatsoever. They turned me off and turned me back on like a flick of a switch, just with chemicals going to my brain. And I couldn't believe how easy it was to manipulate us. And it reminded me of the abductions. The only other time I'd experienced stuff like this was with abductions. And so I thought, wow, it's not that hard to do. People can turn you off and on. It makes me wonder, what is our existence? What are we about? You know, what happens when we die? Do we just switch, just flick off and that's it? Or do we find ourselves in some other state like we hope and believe that we are? A lot of questions.
Did you go through the hypnosis to see if you could recall what happened to you in one of your abductions? Or was it recorded?
I haven't yet. I want to, but I will eventually. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm a little reluctant to do it, but because once you uncover these memories, they're with you the rest of your days. You may not want to. I don't know. So it's the uncertainty factor that keeps me taking my time about doing it. But I'm going to do it eventually, there's no doubt. I know that the hypnosis can work, and I know that my subconscious is loaded down with a lot of stuff that, well, my intellect wants to know, my curiosity wants to know. So I'm driven enough to eventually go under hypnosis at some point. I'll get there, and who knows what I'll find when that happens. So, but hypnosis is a good tool. It works well if you've got a good researcher doing it. There's a big barrier between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. A very big barrier. And we live out these lives in our conscious mind, but we could be living a whole lifetime in our subconscious mind and not even know it. So there's a lot of unexplained things. It's like astronomers, every time they make a discovery and answer a question, it breeds a dozen more. So it's an endless thing. Yes. I think that the aliens, whoever are operating these UFO vehicles that are concerned with the abductions, and that's not the only thing they do, I think they link up to us on the subconscious level. That's the way they can deal with us. If you were an alien, would you want to have to go down and grab a guy that's going to be kicking and screaming and drag him out a window and take him up to your craft and kicking and screaming the whole time? Or you got to do something with them. They can control us through our subconsciouses, because that's where all our basic movements come from, basic thoughts. That's where our survival instinct is. They can control us better right there. And who's to say they can't communicate with us in a lot of ways and program us to behave in certain ways, think in certain ways, have a compulsion to want to pull over on a long, lonely highway just when a scenic overlook is coming up. You know, a lot of manipulation going on here. I've found that when strange things happen, chances are they started with a compulsion in your head or somebody's. Somebody made a decision to turn left instead of right, and then because of that, other things happened that affected them in some strange way. So, yes.
Sleep paralysis and something else doing that instead of.
Well, you know, it's funny, the sleep paralysis condition has been known about for years, and it doesn't occur just with alien-related things. Some people, even over in Europe 2 or 3 centuries ago, would complain about waking up and something is sitting on their chest. And sometimes they feel that sleep paralysis, cannot move, and it's like an old woman, like a witch type thing, or various other entities, maybe some strange creature. But and you won't get off of it, you know, for some time. And then they don't remember next what happens, but they recall that. And so the sleep paralysis condition can happen not just in alien abductions, but other paranormal scenarios too. Again, you see that connection between what the aliens are doing and the supernatural. It seems like there's some kind of link there or association. Not sure what. Still working on a lot of things. Anybody, I'll get you in just a minute. Let me go back toward the back. Anybody back that way?